Please know that some of the material in this program may include views or recommendations of third parties which do not necessarily reflect the views of Manatee Educational Television or indicates its commitment to a particular course of action. METV cannot be held liable for the accuracy of information that has been provided by third parties.
Welcome to Lifelines. I'm Larry Linehauser.
And I'm Robert Day.
On this segment of Lifelines, we're going to be dealing with our most precious commodity, our children. We're going to address safety issues in a myriad of fashions. Rob?
The segments we're going to cover are going to be fire safety, child safety in regards to pools, car seats, and also the internet. As technology brings more tools to us, it also brings ways that children and adults can get themselves and others into trouble, either by somebody doing something on purpose or just by accident. So all those tools that we're going to use, we can have it address the safety of our children.
And we're going to start off with an overview of child safety issues with the current chairperson of the local Safe Kids Coalition here in Manatee County, Deb Mortensen. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with Deb.
We're here at the beautiful YMCA in Bradenton. We'd like to thank them for the use of their facilities and this great indoor pool. As Larry said, we're here with Deb Mortensen, and she is chairperson of the Safe Kids Coalition. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, the two most important topics right now in your mind as far as child safety in the coalition would be what?
Probably the two most important things right now are drown prevention. It seems to be that Florida continues to have the highest rate of drownings in the country, and the other one is car safety, because you see a lot of kids riding around in the car or in the back of the trucks, and so those are two of our main aspects that we work on year-round.
Right, and obviously here as far as pools, both in your home and other places. Now, places like this are pretty good as far as pool safety because they have the supervision and all that. As far as homes, what can folks do at their homes to help children from drowning?
Probably one of the most important things families can do is follow what the law is. When it says when you put in a new pool, you have to put up the fence, you have to put up the alarms. They have done a lot to try to make it. It's just that people do not follow. There's no enforcement to make sure that they're being done.
I suppose probably on some of the newer houses that are being built, that might actually be part of it as far as enclosures and alarms under the new construction. But particularly retrofitting an older home, that might be an issue. So can these folks go and get these devices pretty much anywhere?
There's a lot of different pool companies that will actually sell you fences. They now have alarms that you can actually put on your patio doors.
Oh, okay.
Some of those kind of things, or anytime a kid goes to open it up, it sets off an alarm, sort of like the fire alarm. If the kids figure out it would go off to let you know that somebody is going out around the pool area.
Now, I know we've seen a lot as far as just driving around town. You might see someone with their child not secured in a seat, or worse yet, in their lap where they're between the airbag and the person driving. So as far as the child safety seat, what are your suggestions?
With a car safety seat, I know that when you first bring a baby home from the hospital, I know Manatee Memorial is real good. They go out and make sure the seat's put in right. Our organization has technicians that can actually, you can call the Red Cross, you can call Peggy, who you're going to meet later in the show. You can do a lot of those kind of things that they can make sure that you have it. And seats vary as kids get older and older. The style changes.
Good. Now, what besides those two topics, where obviously are foremost in your mind, what else is the Safe Kids Coalition working on? And how do folks get a hold of the coalition?
The Safe Kids Coalition is a bunch of businesses and individuals that are concerned with the safety of the children in our communities. Besides that, we do bike helmets, because bike helmets are important. We also go to different health fairs, and encourage people to do to get bikes, to do water safety, to do. We also are a little bit involved in the review team now that will give us updates on what some of the major injuries are to children in our area, and those kind of things. So we try to meet the needs of whatever the community is.
So basically, whatever the statistics show as far as what's hazardous to our children, that's what the coalition can focus on. And right now, obviously, it's the car seat and pool safety. But should that be addressed and something else come to the forefront as far as safety, then you would address that.
Oh, yeah, I think if something else came up that we needed to be more aware of, I think we would probably start doing, I know here we do a lot of playground safety, as you saw out in early part. We have a brand new playground, and I sure don't want little kids that falling off of it and getting hurt.
Yeah, I noticed that when we did the introduction with Larry and myself, there was all that mulch around the playground, the nice smooth surfaces made out of materials that don't splinter like some of the wood used to do when you and I were kids and playing on all that. So actually, every place you look, safety is being incorporated. So that's a great job you all are doing.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Anything else you want to share with anybody?
I just would like to welcome any parents, mothers, fathers, anybody that would have a little time that would be interested in maybe learning to help teach kids to swim, coming over and helping when we do the free splash program to try to do drown prevention, to try to get involved with learning to do bike rodeos in their areas. And then, of course, we could use a lot more people to help check car seats because, if we had enough, we could probably go to the different doctor's office, the pediatric offices, and actually assist them if they needed it.
Good. Perfect. Well, thanks, Deb. And
thank you.
If there's anything you can do to help out Deb, contact the Safe Kids Coalition, and obviously they'll be more than happy to take your volunteer time to help make our kids safe.
We're back with Deb Mortensen right now to talk about some specific water safety devices. Deb, what do you have here?
First of all, when you're around a home pool, you should have some kind of rescue equipment, whether you have a noodle or if you have a jug that you can tie a rope on or a pole, something that you can use to reach out to the person so that it doesn't put your life in danger is kind. So anything that really will float, you can actually throw into a person to help them, save them from drowning.
Okay, we have our lovely model Rob Day here with a device that's probably not suited for him. What do you think?
Not quite, but it would be if he was an infant.
So what device should an adult use versus a child?
Basically, life jackets are there's about 40 different sizes that you can purchase, and they're all based on weight. For instance, the one he's holding, this is the style for the infants due to the fact that you latch it up underneath them between their legs so that they can't fall through it. It also has a neck protector on the back that will not let them go forward. This will only roll them onto their back.
So what might have worked for your child last year may not be appropriate for your child this year.
No, because they're all based on weight. Now, this other one I have is the style that you're going to find the most of. There are some other types. There are ski jackets and stuff, but this one is for like a 3 to 4 year old. On the back of them in the store, it tells you exactly if your child weighs so many pounds, which one that you need to purchase. These go all the way up through adults.
How critical do you think these are in saving children's lives in Florida with all the pool homes that we have?
I would think that if a parent really doesn't want to get actually in the water, but they want their kid to enjoy it, because I know that one of the most important things that parents can do is to keep their eyes on their kids. It's been proven that most of the drownings occur because they were preoccupied. I know in my life, I've been a lifeguard since I was 16. I've made 2 rescues, and they were both in hotel pools because parents were too busy doing other things to actually watch their kids in the water.
Yeah, unfortunately, Florida still leads the nation in accidental drowning, so it's obviously something we need. Rob, which one do you like the best for you for today? We're going to throw you in the water. So.
Well, sometimes I've been called an infant, but this one might apply. But really, obviously, this and Florida is surrounded on three sides by water, so obviously the boating issue is a whole nother issue with the life preservers. And as adults, if we wear these, it shows the kids that I remember when I was small. This is not cool to wear this, but really, if we provide good role models, then it will be cool.
Well, heed Deb Morton's advice. She's an expert in it. Get your kids the right safety gear that's age appropriate and weight appropriate, and keep an eye on your kids.
And you should also teach them to swim.
That would be a good thing. Thank you very much. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Joining me now is Peggy Klimek. Peggy is a child safety advocate and is also a member of the local Safe Kids Coalition. Peggy's specialty is child passenger safety. Peggy, welcome to the show.
Larry, thank you so much for having me.
Glad to finally get you here.
I know.
Tell us about child passenger safety and what you do.
Okay, well, I've been involved with child passenger safety for 14 years. And we started the Safe Kids Coalition 13 years ago, but I was involved in child passenger safety before that, and kind of is what got me interested in Safe Kids. And I'm a volunteer. I'm a mom. I was interested in what I saw in Manatee County, children not being in car seats. So I called Public Safety Department and said, what can we do? So we started everything then, and it's been great. But what I'd like to do today is go through the basic car seats, talk a little bit about how to do things correctly, and also mention some of the common mistakes that people make.
In your professional opinion, because you've been doing this a long time, what's the percentage of people who put their child in their seat incorrectly?
There was a study done, I believe, back in around the year 2000, and they're still saying it's about 4 out of 5 people make some type of mistake with their car seat.
So we definitely need this education bad.
Yes, we do.
Okay, Peggy's going to go ahead and take us
Okay, let me show you first, Larry, the 3 different phases that we'll go through with the car seat. Most people, not everyone, you don't have to get this, but most people will get the infant seat when the child is born and comes home from the hospital. The infant seat usually goes from 5 to 20, sometimes 22. That might be the highest weight you can go on the infant seat. One of the things you have to remember with car seats, too, that people don't often think about is they also have a height limitation.
Okay.
So they have a weight limitation, weight limits on either end, and a height limits on either end. Then from there we move to a convertible seat. Now the convertible seat first starts out in a rear-facing position in the car. And the nice thing is now they're making the rear-facing position on the convertibles go up to 35 pounds.
Okay.
So the American Pediatric Association, Safe Kids, safety experts are recommending that we go ahead and leave these children rear-facing a little longer now.
Okay.
So you can go up to 35 pounds rear-facing, which is wonderful. It's really the safest way to ride in the car. I tell my parents if I could drive rear-facing in the back seat, that's how I would drive. So we encourage them to leave them rear-facing. Then you turn it around and face them forward. Forward-facing, it goes up to 40 pounds.
So at what point do you turn it around?
Okay, here's one of the common mistakes. Let's bring that up right now. Some people had children 7 years ago. Now they have a new baby. And the old rule was 20 pounds and 1 year can turn them around. That right now is considered the absolute minimum that you should turn them around. It's not considered wrong to do it then, but that's the minimum because the seats are rear-facing longer.
They're safer options.
The American Pediatric Association is saying leave them rear-facing longer. A little bit past a year, you can go up to 30 pounds. All right, then from here we move to a booster seat. Now this is actually a combination seat because it had a harness in it. You see the harness holes?
Yes.
It had a harness like this, which I removed for today's show to show it to you as a booster seat.
Okay.
And we are encouraging booster seat use, parents. This is the big thing. Now people are pretty good about these 2 seats, but booster seats go up to 100 pounds.
Wow.
There's a 100-pound weight limit on this. We want the kids in booster seats. Seat belts are tested on adults. They are not for children. Larry, this is where we're seeing the deaths.
Okay. Safe Kids also takes place in car seat safety checks from time to time, periodically throughout the year. Can you tell me some information about that?
Yes, we do safety seat checkup events, and we tend not to do them in the summer because it's very hot. So that usually starts in the fall, and we'll do, maybe 2 or 3 a year. And we have safety seat technicians scattered throughout the county. They're trained, they're certified by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, and they will check your seat for you on an appointment basis. So that's a good thing.
Can you tell the public out there, if they need further information, who they could call to get information from as far as Safe Kids is concerned, or how they may want to get involved and help you? We need some volunteers for Safe Kids.
Yes, we have Safe Kids. Our lead organization who sponsors us is All Children's Hospital. And the number is 1-800-756-SAFE, S-A-F-E. And you will speak to Gene Shoemaker. And yes, we absolutely love to have some volunteers. And then locally, if you need your car seat checked, you can call me. I'm sure the number will be on the screen.
Yes, we'll run it.
And what I will do is then I will ask you where you live in the county and point you to the car seat technician that is closest to where you live or work and get your car seat checked for free.
If you are a parent who has a child who is car seat age and you don't know how to put it in, or you're not sure you put it in right, we beg you to please contact Peggy at the number below, and we can direct you where you need to go to get it checked out correctly. I know that in the years I've helped out with Safe Kids, there's more often than not the car seats are put in wrong, beginning with me, and I had to be instructed on how to put my car seat in correct, and I've been in public safety for almost a quarter of a century now, so it's not immune from anybody. I want to thank Deb Mortensen and Peggy Klimek for the 2 segments on child safety, passenger seat-wise, and pool safety. We're going to be switching gears now. We're going to go to another very important topic, and Rob's going to tell us about that.
As we talked about in our introduction, we're going to take a look at some of the technology issues that are facing not only us, but also our children. And Ozell Hayes with the School Board of Manatee County will be showing us a new security system they've installed at all the schools to keep our kids safe.
So stay tuned. There's more important information for you and your child.
We're here at Moody Elementary with the Manatee School System, and with me is Assistant Principal Paul Hockenberry.
Right.
Thank you for joining the Lifeline show.
Hey, you're welcome.
Appreciate it. And as far as school safety, my wife incidentally used to teach here at the school several years ago.
Okay.
And I noticed that the remodel here probably had safety in mind, in that the entrance to the school, everything kind of funnels folks to the front office. So architecturally, that's one of the things I noticed. And as far as safety, what are y'all doing here?
Well, the remodel has greatly increased our ability to monitor who's coming in and out of the school. The original campus was built early 70s, and there were no windows in the office. And the way to get into the school didn't even go into the front office. It went to a hallway. They'd go down a hall and then into the office. So any visitors, anyone coming into the school, had access to the hallways before they had access to the hallways. So, or the office.
Right.
This is much better. All the doors are locked. We have one door that's open. That's in the front office. There's a lot of signage out front. Obviously, the windows help. We see parents come up, so it's labeled a lot better, and I think it's helped increase the security of our school.
I've heard about in other Lifeline segments, we've talked about SIP, TED, or crime prevention through environmental design, and that actually takes architecturally into account this whole thing. And I noticed the weather radio also, the National Weather Service radio. Can you tell me about that?
Yep. Well, we just got a new radio recently shipped to the school, I believe from our risk management department, and we have it plugged into the office where there's always an adult or a staff member, working, and if there's ever an alert or anything goes off, we have that, and we adjust our day accordingly, be it tornado warning or just severe weather or anything like that. It's always monitored, and most of the time, fortunately, it stays quiet this year, and we haven't had to do anything yet.
Yeah, as far as hurricanes, it has been quiet.
It has, thank goodness.
But then you brought up the tornadoes. I know Florida's number 4 for tornadoes in the country, and people don't necessarily realize that. They tend to kind of crop up with these afternoon thunderstorms, so this way everyone is in the loop.
Right, yeah. If we hear anything, we have procedures in place that if an alarm goes off, or if there's a message across, it's monitored by an adult, it's passed on to the administration. We do have portables out back, and that's our first concern.
Sure.
So in the event of a tornado warning, we do pull the kids inside, and we have some areas that aren't as hardened as others. We get those kids where they need to be.
Good. And you mentioned the risk management department with those radios, and pretty soon we'll be talking to Ozell Hayes about the Raptor system. But just as an overview, can you tell us a little bit about it? And he'll show us the details on it.
Okay, great. Yeah, the Raptor system is something obviously that's new to this county, and we got the email about it here that we were getting at Moody. We were encouraged to get it. I think it's it really is an ultimate level of security that a school can provide their kids. Any adult that wants to leave the office, either go have lunch with their child, go visit a classroom, or has any type of business outside of the front office, we run their driver's license. And the way this works, and I'm sure Ozell can elaborate on it, is it does a background check on this individual, and if there's an issue, if security pops up, they have it set to where the principal and we would get emails as well as contacts on our cell phone that a suspect or someone who maybe shouldn't be at our school is trying to enter our school. And the feedback that we've gotten from our parents, a couple parents, it's one more thing they have to do. They have to have their driver's license or some type of ID. But no one has been upset because they understand that it's benefits, it's for the safety and security of their child. So
that whole
they
climate,
understand.
The whole climate of safety really begins with the parents.
Absolutely. And like I said, we haven't had any kind of complaints or arguments about it, and I think really most people have said, it gives me a higher peace of mind knowing that any adult that may be going into my child's class is being scanned.
Okay, very good. Anything else that you're doing here at Moody that you want to talk about?
Well, we've added some gates. We've added some gates. In fact, get back to the construction. There were some areas we had a lot of foot traffic in the mornings, the afternoons, and we've added some gates to sort of.
I remember the playground area used to be out in
it was
the back.
It's pretty wide open. It's gated off now.
Great.
And, really a big thank you to the architects who created the school and the construction team. I was here when we went through that remodel, and it has definitely increased the security of our campus.
All right. Well, thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. Thanks to Moody. And we'll take a look at the Raptor system. We might not run the license of my co-host, Larry Lionhauser. I think I saw his photo at the post office on the wall. I'm not sure, but we'll take a look at the Raptor system here with Ozell. Now we're here with Judy, and she's a resident expert here at Moody on the Raptor system. And Ozell Hayes is with Risk Management. You're going to explain us the details while Judy is running this gentleman's license here. And we just happen to be so lucky that one of the husbands of one of the teachers showed up here today.
Okay. Well, the system is designed to scan a person's driver's license and check it against the National Sexual Offenders Database.
Okay.
So if a person has been convicted of a sexual offense and either or still is or have been on probation since 1996, then they will show up in the Sexual Offenders Database.
All right.
Now,
so Judy can go ahead and show us how this is done. Is it done with a scanner?
Judy will put the license inside of the scanner.
Good. And that's what this mag strip on the back is.
And
very good.
She'll scan the license, give it a little nudge there, and watch it goes through.
It's actually quicker than I thought it would be as far as the scanning portion.
Now what this does is captures this individual's identification and information.
That's a good likeness.
And she can put in there and his likeness, and she puts in there where he wants to go into the school. And since it didn't come up with an offender alert, then we can now let him go into the school.
Good. And this actually keeps on file or some sort of log as far as returning visitors? That sort of thing? Okay,
the system is designed to keep his information on file so that when he comes back to visit again, he won't have to go through scanning his license. However, it does still check him against the sexual offenders base because we do know that people go out and get in trouble. It also gives us a complete log of who's in our building, when they're in our buildings, just in case that we have to go into a lockdown, or if we have to do an evacuation, we'll know that we got so many visitors in here and we need to account for those people also. Other things that this system does is it tracks our volunteers, and even if we wanted to do faculty, which we could do our subs and put those people in, and we can do students. Students sign in and sign out. This gives us an accountability of if a parent comes to pick a student up to take them to the doctor, then we do student sign out.
Good.
And then that gives us accountability of who picked them up, what time, and what was the purpose for them being picked up.
Good. I'm going to ask you a couple more questions, and while I'm doing that, Judy can run the co-host Larry Lionhauser's license here, and I'll hand that over to her.
Is that the picture that we saw in the post office?
That's the one in the post office, so we'll see what happens here. And one of the questions I do have as far as the, while Judy's doing that, as far as video cameras and other things that might be around the school, this actually might help tie two things together. So if someone does something in the school, their image might show up on the timeline on the tape, but then also you can tie it back to this, can't you?
Absolutely, and we're going to let Judy do this first, right? And then we're going to run a report
Oh, good.
Okay,
Good.
and I'm going to show you what kind of reports we can run.
Wow, that's a lot of stuff underneath Larry's. That's a long report. Do you have enough paper for that?
Larry.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Now, another thing we failed to mention is that, let me see that, Judy. What this does is it prints out a badge for the visitor with the likeness on there.
Very good.
And we can also put in there the location of where this person is supposed to go.
Supposed to go. Right.
So if we have an individual running around campus, seem like they don't know where they should be,
right,
then one of the faculty members can read that this person is supposed to be in the office.
And
if he's in the media center,
right,
then we need to direct him back toward the office.
Very good. So your staff and the staff at the various schools are trained in order to do that.
Absolutely.
And here's Larry, and that's quite the list.
To the office there.
Yeah, come to the office.
Yeah, and in fact, where's his visitor panel? Okay, here's the official visitors panel. Actually, that turned out a lot better than I thought. So there's Larry's official visitor pass, so you can go to the office. And personally, I thought he would have hit the cafeteria first, but there's your license. Oh, that's why you're late. Okay, very good. Appreciate it.
Now, one of the things that this system does is it runs complete reports. You can go in here under visitor report.
Okay, good.
Okay, and we go Moody. We're going to select the report. If we want to select a detailed report by date range, okay, meaning that we want to know who all was in here on the detail.
Good.
Let's just say we go here and the day is the 29th and we want to go back to the 21st, and then we hit submit.
All right. So if something happened between that beginning time and today,
we can go back and we can see everybody who's in here visiting from that particular time.
Wow.
Their locations, the date and time that they were here, time that they signed out, and everything from that particular time.
Actually, one thing that surprises me is the speed of the system, not only with the check-in but the reports. So the cost of security that Paul is talking about, the principal is talking about, really I don't see a huge bottleneck necessarily in people waiting for this versus the benefit they get from the security.
Right. Yeah. And the benefit they get from the security is great. And the time that we spend here doing the driver's license scan is very minimal. It may be an inconvenience the first time that person comes in, but once they're in the system, once they're scanned, that information stays in the system. So the next time they come, it's a very easy thing where Judy can go up to Quick Find and type in the first three letters of their last name, and then it'll bring them up.
Very good.
And then she click on it, and then there's their information right there. Then, and all she needs to do is put in the notes where they're going.
So they're good to go.
They're good to go.
Anything else you want to tell us about any of this?
No, I just wanted to say that the school district of Manatee County is going through all kinds of measures right now to ensure safety and security of our students, staff, parents, and anybody that visits our campus. The risk management office is taking several initiatives to ensure safety. We developed the school emergency response plans, which now we have in effect in all of our schools. We just finished developing our district emergency management plan. Right now, we are going to start training on NIMS projects.
Okay, good.
Which
That's the
is
National
Incident Management Systems.
Good.
Which is going to give training to all of our administrators on how to deal with multi-hazard planning as far as emergencies are concerned. We're getting ready to institute a district-wide student accident reporting program, and also a district-wide online safety training program.
Right.
So those are some of the things that we got coming up in the future to try to ensure safety in our school district.
And I know you and Forrest Branscombe have been very proactive in this whole approach.
Yes.
And unfortunately, with everything that's facing us now as far as everything since Columbine and 9/11, and there's things that administrators at the schools have to think about that they didn't have to in the past, but it's good to know that folks like you are actually stepping up, addressing all that, and actually making it part of the culture so that the job of educating the students can go on.
Exactly.
Yeah, appreciate it.
All
Thanks.
right. Thanks.
All right.
Welcome back to Lifelines. I'm Larry Linehauser. Joining me now is Major Connie Shingledecker with Manatee County Sheriff's Office. Major Shingledecker is involved in a very important detail regarding child safety and child protection as it relates to home and home deaths, or what maybe used to be called SIDS has now changed complexion quite a bit. And Major Schigerduckle is going to cover exactly some of the changes that she's involved in. She is the chair for the local child death review team, and there's also a statewide task force which she's a part of. So welcome to the show, Connie.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Can you please give us an overview of your committee here and then statewide?
Sure. We have a local child death review team committee that's been in place for probably about the last 4 years, where we look at death cases regarding related to children in Manatee County of all varieties. You know, we might have some drowning cases, and over the last few years we've recognized some infant death related cases that have caught our attention as a result of unsafe sleeping practices. And so in 2004 we noticed that particular year we had 8 which were preventable deaths. The child death review team locally will look at all child death cases to say, you know, how can we prevent these from happening in our community? What can we do to educate parents and others in our community to help keep children safe and prevent these issues from occurring? And when we found that we had 8 in 1 year, we really wanted to do a lot of education and put a big push on to keep our babies safe. And so what we're finding is that we've got parents putting their children to bed in unsafe sleeping practices, whether they be in adult beds, in cribs with a lot of soft bedding, soft material that they can get put up around their face. And we've had some instances of overlay where we have infants that are sleeping with their parents where they're compressed or overlaid by an individual in that situation and they don't survive it.
There's been a considerable paradigm shift as far as the SIDS approach, the whole concept of SIDS period. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, what we used to think was something that was just a phenomenon that we didn't know what it was and we didn't know how to prevent it. We were calling it sudden infant death, and that it could have occurred while you were in the room and you couldn't have done anything about it, and it was supposedly something that might have been wrong with the baby, and yet we just weren't able to determine through autopsy and scene investigation what those issues were. But as a result, in 1992 they did a Back to Sleep campaign. As a result of actually all around the world, they did some studies looking at what were unsafe sleeping practices with babies, and face down or prone face down position was the most common denominator, that and soft bedding. So what they did was they asked parents to start putting their babies on their backs to sleep. In 1992 they actually decreased infant death in some areas 50%.
Wow.
So what that told us was that if that was preventable, then it was probably as a result of the environment that the baby was sleeping in and not so much what was wrong with the baby itself. And we do notice that it's during infancy, which is generally between the ages of 1 to 4 or 5 months old, where they have limited capabilities in maneuvering themselves out of unsafe sleeping positions. So you combine face down, soft bedding, or even being overlaid, and it just compromises the child, the baby at that time. So what we're really trying to encourage parents is take a look at the environment that you're considering putting your baby to sleep in. For example, if you have a bassinet, don't use comforters, don't use soft pillows, don't use adult pillows, just use the firm flat mattress that it comes with. Don't put any blankets in there with the baby. If you're going to use a crib, no bumper pads, no blankets. The baby should be put to sleep in what it's wearing normally in a comfortable temperature setting. So if it's a little onesie or something that has long sleeves, that's fine, but you don't need to be putting blankets in there that it can get itself wrapped up in. That seems to be a real problem. So we really are encouraging parents to take heed to this situation, because it's such a tragedy, and I know some of the EMS personnel and law enforcement that respond, it really does affect them, and the parents are, it's one of the worst days of their lives.
There's nothing worse. I
Absolutely.
can't imagine, but I also know as a parent, and anybody that's ever been a parent, there's probably a lot of things we did inadvertently we just simply didn't even know, or even a risk that we've now come to learn truly is a risk, and why it's important to adhere to what you're saying.
Well, and another example is if you've got a parent that's maybe even breastfeeding and is exhausted or really tired, there's no problem with breastfeeding and then putting the baby back in a bassinet right next to the bed. I know that there's some concerns that, we'll interfere with bonding if we don't have the baby in bed with us, but bed sharing is, especially if you're exhausted, obese, or intoxicated or under the influence of drugs or alcohol, it's just not a safe environment for the baby, and the baby needs to be in its own safe sleeping environment on its back.
I had heard some new terms since I've been talking with you about this, positional asphyxia and overlay.
Yes.
Can you delineate between those versus what we thought was perhaps classic SIDS, whatever SIDS was, unexplained basically?
Right, unexplained. Well, what we're finding is that babies, if they're face down in soft bedding, that they may end up with their nose and mouth occluded, meaning that their airways are blocked. Even partially blocked makes it a difficulty for the baby to breathe. And a new phenomenon called rebreathing, or what we've recognized, it's not new, it's just that we've now recognized it, where the bedding doesn't allow air to permeate, and so they began to rebreathe their own air and diminished oxygen, breathing in carbon dioxide and that sort of thing, and eventually they just run out of air if they get into a little pocketed situation because they're face down into bedding. We've seen cases here in our county. We had 8 in 2004, and from 2000 to now we've had over 26 cases of preventable infant deaths. The overlay is where a parent or someone sleeping in the bed with a child, could be another child sibling, happens to roll over onto the baby, and the baby is not in a position to move itself or to even be able to make any noise whatsoever, and the person overlaying the child is usually exhausted or doesn't feel the baby underneath them, as can be with brothers and sisters. They're just not as sensitive, and then the baby, it doesn't take long that the baby just can't get another breath.
Compensate. And I think everybody's, as a parent, has been so exhausted that they've simply fell asleep in place, and if you by chance have the baby next to you or you think is on top of you and safe, that in fact is not the case.
Absolutely, and I think we also need to remember that we've got grandparents and we've got other care providers that are putting babies down, and so the parents might know that the position for the baby is on its back, but they might take it to another care provider that might say, well, when I was bringing my children up, I put them always on their tummy and they seem to like it better. That's actually more dangerous for a baby that has never slept on its stomach. It's more dangerous because it's totally foreign to the baby. It doesn't know how to get itself out of that position.
Review with me again as far as at what age can the baby move its head, like to get out of, say, a situation where it's got a soft mattress and can't get enough air, or rebreathing its own air, and be able to sort of escape from itself in that sense?
Well, we consider it to be a dangerous circumstance up to about 7 months. For example, if the baby were to get its blankets put over its head and get itself in a compromising position, it may not, if it's face down, be able to, even at 7 months, be able to remove the covers from its head. So you just have to consider that during the time that the infant is up to 1 year in a crib, you really don't need to be putting anything in there that it can get itself entangled in.
So where do you go from here in terms of public education and outreach with your committee and the data that you're finding as a result of these investigations?
Well, we've been doing some training, ongoing training, and we're getting ready to put one out on the 12th of October, actually at the City Center. And this is more for professionals. It's going to be focusing on the investigative techniques that we use to try to determine exactly what has occurred. We're going to be involving the medical examiners, their investigators, our detectives, other law enforcement agencies, EMS personnel, because we really want them to understand the dynamics of what we're dealing with as well. We're going to invite some other child support and child caregiver type individuals. The 13th, we're actually I'm going to be doing a training with child care providers out at, I can't think of the name of the church, but it's out on State Road 70. Woodland Baptist Church, Woodland Baptist Church is dealing with daycare providers out there, and so I'm going to be doing a training on the 13th in the morning for those individuals, because we have a concern as far as any child care provider making sure that they understand the safe sleep environment.
Well, before I say thank you, can you direct a message to our viewers as far as anything you want to convey, especially important at this moment?
Yeah, I just really want to stress the importance of the infant safe sleep environment. And remember that everyone wants to take good care of their child and have a safe bonding experience with their baby, but the time to have those bonding experiences is when the baby's awake, when the baby can be placed on its stomach and have tummy time to where it can practice lifting its head and so forth. But when the baby's being put down to sleep, the safest sleep position is on its back in its own safe sleeping environment. Put it in its own crib, not in an adult bed or on an adult mattress, and certainly not co-sleeping with anyone else, because that is not going to be a safe sleeping environment regardless of what position that baby is in. Even if that baby was on its back, if it's co-sleeping with an adult or another child, it is not going to be a safe sleeping environment. we want your experience with your baby to be a great one, and we really want to eliminate and prevent us from having to respond to any more infant death cases. And as I've said, we've already had 26 preventable infant death cases from 2000 to date.
Major Shingler, thank you very much. Great success in your program, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We'll be right back.
We just heard from Deb at Poolside with the Safe Kids Coalition as far as pool safety and water in general, since Florida is surrounded on 3 sides by water. And we have Major Connie Shingledecker of the Manatee Sheriff's Office. And from a law enforcement standpoint, what can you tell us about pool safety and water safety in general?
Well, I want to emphasize to the parents and people that are watching children the importance of never leaving a child unsupervised around water. Now, most of us will think that that means during the time when we're spending time around the swimming pool. But believe it or not, the majority of the cases that we get involved in where children die or are nearly drown are where parents are doing everyday activities in the home, such as fixing a meal, getting the groceries out of the car, doing everyday activities that have nothing to do with the swimming pool, and then the children in some way or fashion or another end up getting out into the swimming pool area because the barriers are not in place. In other words, gates are not locked, doors are not closed properly, alarms are not set, and these children are gaining access to these swimming pools and drowning. Since 2000 to date, we've had over 10 instances where mainly toddlers have wandered out into the swimming pool areas or lakes around homes and have drowned. We've also had over 18 near drowning instances, and these are really tragic occurrences. On one hand, the child may survive it, but may be brain damaged severely. So we really need to be paying attention. If we have water around our home setting or we have a swimming pool, we need to make sure that all the barriers are in place, and then make sure, check them and double check them, triple check them, make sure that the child cannot gain access to that swimming pool when you're doing everyday activities in the home, not just when you're out and around the water.
As we saw a pool site at the YMCA, there were certain things that certainly new homes that are built have some of these barriers built in. As far as retrofitting older homes with some of these barriers, can you tell us how folks can possibly do that?
Well, yes, they can have the little cages put around the pool where they drill through the concrete abutment, and they'll put they'll put the barriers in place. But sometimes the child can still compromise itself by getting through that barrier. Okay. And what you have to really pay attention to is making sure that you've got multiple barriers in place. So don't always just rely on the fact that you've got one of those gates that have been put up, because children can get very creative, put chairs in place to climb over, and we've seen that occur. It's mainly that there have to be multiple barriers put in place, doors locked, and again, making sure that they're secured or they're high enough up where they can't reach the levers and open the doors.
So it all boils down to supervision, certainly, and those multiple barriers. You don't have any single point of failure. That way it gives the opportunity, or the parent's opportunity, better chance at finding anything as far as a child headed to a pool, or anything to do with the bathtub for that reason, or is that a different situation?
Well, that is a different situation. We have had some rare instances where parents have been bathing a child and have gotten distracted. Maybe they've gone to the computer, or they've gone to answer the door, and they've forgotten that they've left the child, or they've thought that they've only left the child momentarily. And we have seen some sad instances where they've let two siblings bathe together, and one will push the other one underwater. So you really need to be alert, be constantly there and present when you're bathing your children, and don't get distracted, don't walk away, and if you do, take the child with you.
Anything as far as outside areas, because here in Florida we're blessed with all these natural surroundings, of course, which include lakes and ponds and creeks and all that. Any suggestions on that route as far as any technological barriers or other means of supervision?
Well, and I think that's important that you bring that up, because we do have a number of lakes, and we have a lot of people don't want to put anything up to block them, because they want the aesthetics of being able to look out and see a beautiful lake and not have a fence surrounding it. And unfortunately, if you're going to have that, you're going to have some barriers in place that are going to prevent the child from getting to the lake. And anything that would attract the child to the water, such as a beach ball or toys that are left around the water and that sort of thing. So I think it's going to be really important, again, the barriers and supervision. Nothing takes the place of good supervision.
And we also learned that the YMCA, the Safe Kids Coalition, as far as properly fitting a life preserver and all that, which certainly would be another safety aspect as far as outside, because should that supervision be compromised, they would have a flotation device. Anything else you can think of as far as a closing statement to our viewers on the water safety?
Just want to reiterate what we've already said is if you've got a swimming pool or a pond or another water body of water near your residence, by all means make sure that you've got plenty of barriers in place that the child cannot get through, and make sure that you're constantly supervising your children. Nothing takes the place of good supervision. So if you think that one person may be watching your child going out to the garage and so forth, make sure that you're taking the opportunity to go with that child to make sure that they get where they're supposed to be going, and that you're not just letting the child make their way to someone else. We have had some instances with that. So again, good supervision, lots of barriers in place.
I'm glad to know that Major Shingle-Decker and all her deputies are here protecting everyone, and hopefully with all those things in mind, no one out there will have to see you on a professional basis, and because that's the last thing that I'm sure you would want.
Absolutely.
Good.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks. We're here at Cedar Hammock Fire Rescue, and we have as our guest Inspector Austin, and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
He's going to go over this book that actually looks like it fit well into the classroom environment. My wife is a teacher, and certainly this is something the younger kids could see pretty well. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, every year my superior wants me to come up with something new, and my wife and I come up with the idea of doing a big storybook because the reading is a big part of the school system now. So I approached one of the teachers at Bayshore Elementary, and we talked about doing this, and she thought it was a great idea, so they even blew up the coloring book pages for me.
Oh, look at that. Okay, so there's some coloring books that go with this?
It was a coloring book that I
right.
used last year, and then we blew the pages up just to make the book. And on this page here, we talk about what's hot and what could hurt them.
Okay.
A little bit about the stove danger, toasters, and ask them how a toaster could burn them or start a fire. The hot water in the sink in the kitchen or the bathroom.
Good.
And then an iron.
And we'll take a look at the kitchen safety here in a few minutes. And what do we have
And then
over
we
here?
cover what's called stop, drop, cover, and roll. And it's
Okay.
what to do if your clothes could catch on fire
All right.
yourself, or if it was a friend, what would you do?
Okay, and then smoke detectors. Now, I notice you have one down there on the counter.
Right. Every home in America needs at least one smoke detector, and make sure it's a working smoke detector.
Okay.
Children take the batteries out of them, so make sure you get
Right.
a sound
Okay.
out of it.
All right. And was it change the time, fall back and
Right.
spring forward and change
this
your
year
battery,
it's
right?
October the 29th.
Okay, all
Change
right.
your clock, change your battery.
Very good.
And as you drive by our 3 stations, you will notice the banners going up. Change
Okay.
your clock, change your battery.
Good, and that's a good way to remember it. And here we have a family meeting place, and I guess
That's
what's
a little
after
bit
the fire?
about Edith, exit drills in the home, know your
Okay.
meeting place, how to report a fire, what to tell them, your name, address, phone number, type of emergency.
All that, very good.
And then again, a little more on the smoke detector. I push
Okay.
them big time. Don't
Oh.
be afraid.
Yeah, because
That's-
as you put on your fire gear, I imagine that can be scary to smaller kids in particular.
Right, I do a program what's called the Friendly Firefighter.
All right, good.
And they see me go from regular uniform into the full gear, breathing air. Then I sit down on the floor and let the kids walk around and
So that way
touch
they
me.
don't get scared if they can't see your face.
Right.
They don't think you're Darth Vader or
Right.
something like that. Okay, very good, good.
Then again, you talk about home fire drills.
Okay, so this book definitely lends itself to that kind of environment. And the last thing we talked about or want to talk about is the house numbering system.
Right, make sure your house numbers are up, your address, because if there's a fire, we can find it by the smoke, but we still got to know what direction to go. But what if you need a policeman or a paramedic? Somebody's sick, or you need a law enforcement officer.
So it says that make it 4 inches tall on the house.
Well, the county ordinance is 3 inches
Okay.
residential, 6 inches business.
Oh, all right.
But the
Okay.
bigger, the better.
Bigger the better. And if it's a house that's kind of back behind trees, then certainly on the mailbox would be another good place.
Right, or a
Okay.
post out by the street.
Okay, good. All right, so that's a good learning tool for the classroom environment. Now we'll take a look in the kitchen environment and also other household hazards as far as chemicals. And so we'll go in and take a look at that. We've moved into the kitchen area here with Inspector Austin, and we'll take a look at fire, which is the #1 kitchen hazard, but then also what people may not realize is the hazards underneath the sink.
Right, just a regular household chemicals. If you've got small children, you need to keep the cabinets secured to where they can't get in, or take the chemicals out and put them in a utility room, store them up high to where the children can't get them. Because if a child can get anything, there's Pledge.
All right. Oven cleaner.
Oven cleaner. You got furniture polish.
All right.
And then you've got Comet.
Okay.
Anything a small child picks up automatically goes to their mouth. A lot of people keep bleach and drain cleaners under there.
Right.
And the same with medication. If you've got medication anywhere, keep it out of the reach of a child.
Actually, I've seen recently in the grocery store when I went shopping last time that had a some kind of cleaner that was in a bottle. It looked almost like a soda bottle with a lid on it and a bright blue color. So to me, it almost looked like it could have been a flavored drink of some sort.
Well, there was just an incident this week in Tampa to where a father had taken some chemicals and put it into a bottle, and his child picked it up and she drank it and it killed her.
Okay.
So it needs to be clearly marked what it is, but biggest thing is to keep it out of the hands of a child.
So label it as
label
such,
it,
and
leave
preferably
it
in the same
leave
container.
it in the original bottle
Right.
it comes in.
Okay.
And if it's in an area to where a child can get to it, make it child-proof. Secure it or put it up.
Very good. Okay, so that's secondary to fire, but certainly a hazard that anyone can address by either making the cabinets child-proof, or better yet, probably just moving those items out of the children's reach
Securing it
altogether.
and putting it out of their reach.
Good. Okay, now we'll move to the stove and take a look at those hazards.
Okay.
We moved over here to the stove, and I see that you've been kind enough here at Cedar Hammock to provide us with cookies here for the Lifelines crew. Is that true? Or
Well, no, really,
Okay,
that's
all right.
one of our props, but if
all
you're
right.
real good, I'll give you
Give
one.
one. Okay, so first of all, let's take a look at this situation, then we'll get to those cookies.
Okay, what we're going to talk about is children in a kitchen. A kitchen should be designated as a no-play zone.
Okay.
It's not a play area. There's a lot of things in the kitchen that can hurt you. One of the biggest fires we fight in a residential home today is the kitchen fire, and that's this year's 2006 fire prevention theme.
Okay.
Watch what you're heating, prevent kitchen fires.
Good.
If you've got a pot on the stove, make sure all the handles are turned inward so nobody can hit it and knock it off.
That makes
Make
sense.
sure your clothes are tight-fitting to where you're not hanging over. And if you've got to reach for something at the back of your stove, you don't want loose-fitting clothes.
Particularly on here, because these are flame as opposed to...
Right, it's open
Right.
flame versus an electric. This is a gas stove here at our firehouse.
So if this handle was over the edge, certainly a small child could reach up and grab this, whereas this would make it a lot more difficult.
Right.
Good. And
That
tell us
makes
about
it safer.
the snacks that are over here.
I ask when I do my programs in schools, I ask a lot of the children, where's mom keep your treats? Oh, they're in the kitchen. Where in the kitchen? Next to the stove? Well, why are they there? Because mom says I'd remember where to find them. A good place to keep them is on your kitchen counters, back behind where we're at, and away from the stove to where a child can't hurt themselves.
So they're not tempted by those treats
Right.
to come up here to the stove.
And then you want to keep the top of your stove clean to where it's
Right.
free of grease. The same thing with your ovens. Make sure they're clean and not storing anything in them. They're not storage. It's what cabinets are for.
Now, if something should start here as far as a small cooking fire, is there anything as far as either covers or other materials that folks can use as opposed to... I've always heard don't put water on a cooking fire necessarily because it could make it worse.
It could spread it if
Okay.
it's a grease fire. The best thing to have is a fire extinguisher
Okay.
and make sure it's working. You can have it done by any licensed fire extinguisher company. If you don't have that, you can use a lid, and you bring your
okay,
lid
good.
off from the side down on the top. You're going to have a little puff.
Right.
That's just where it's breathing for oxygen, but it's going to smother the fire.
Good.
Or you can use salt or baking soda.
Soda. All right.
And the same thing with an oven fire. A lot of people want to open the oven. Your oven is sealed, so if there's a fire in there, leave it closed, let it burn itself out,
Right.
and at the same time, call 911.
Good.
Any fire you have at any time, no matter how big or small, needs to be reported to the fire department.
So that way it gets you guys rolling. If you get there and it's out by then, just so much the better. But just in case something goes wrong, you're already on the road.
Right. In our line of work, we only have seconds. We don't have minutes.
Good.
A
So-
fire, a house can go fully involved in 5 minutes.
So you're just as happy to show up and have to turn around and go back home?
Yes,
than you are.
sir.
Good, good.
We don't like to lose life.
All right. Well, we're glad we have the Cedar Hammock fire folks on our team and everything else to go with that as far as all their education, outreach, safety, as well as their response. So we're glad to have you in our community.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for joining us today. And actually, for our closing, it's quite fitting that we're standing next to a piece of the World Trade Center from 9/11, and the number is 343. That represents the number of firefighters that perished on 9/11. So it's quite fitting that Cedar Hammock have this in their lobby. So if anyone wants to come down and see a piece of the World Trade Center and a piece of history, it's here for them. Blair?
We also want to give special thanks to the people who made this show possible today, beginning with Deb Mortensen from the YMCA, Peggy Klimek from the Safe Kids Coalition, Ozell Hayes from Manatee County School Board, Major Connie Shingledecker with Manatee County Sheriff's Office, and Inspector Bobby Austin with Cedar Hammock Fire Rescue. Without their assistance, we couldn't have done this. There was quite a bit of useful information given out today. We hope you take it to heart. If you're a parent or grandparent, please watch it, listen to it, and use it. Until next time on the Lifelines, thank you much for joining us.